What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me this evening. It is we are burning the midnight oil tonight, East Coast time, 9 o'clock p.m. Tonight, we're going to be live with Derek Brown of Fade the Noise and his podcast, Fade the Chalk. We're going to be drafting yet another Underdog Fantasy Ball Mania II tournament team. But before we get into that, I want to go over an article that Derek actually sent me earlier this week about Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, and the impending quarterback competition. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, maybe get into a strategy or two for this tournament, and then we'll get the draft on our team. So what's going on, Derek? Thanks for joining me. Really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, Zach, dude, yeah, come on, man. You know we talk in DMs way too damn much. More than any grown men should talk to each other on a regular basis. No, thank you for having me. This is fantastic. We've been grinding these best ball streets, my man. Hey, at least we are not burning the midnight oil. We're not up at like 1:30, half a bottle of whiskey or whatever else in and drafting on StreamYard just because we can, okay? So
That's right.
we're doing this earlier. This is better. So I appreciate it, man. This could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to having you on. You are a big personality in the fantasy space. If you've ever caught any of Derek's podcasts, whether it's his or even on some other platforms, he tends to show up on a lot of people's pods. He's a tremendous personality, a really nice guy, cool guy, good friend that I've developed with over a little bit of a friendship over these last couple of months. So I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate your encouragement and support throughout my process of trying to grow in this space. And we're going to talk a little about your article here because you touched on a bit of a popular topic that's been going on all offseason, which is the debate between who will be the starting quarterback for the Saints. Will it be Jameis Winston or Swiss Army knife Taysom Hill? You really kind of did a lot of deep diving here into the numbers. You took a look at a lot of historic things. I'm sharing my screen right now so we can look at the article, but I'm going to kind of let you explain to everybody what we're seeing here. I might chime in with a question or two, but you wrote it, so I think you got a little bit better memorized than I do. I'll trust you to kind of guide us through this thing, but it's a really good piece. So everyone pay attention to what he's got to say, and I even put the link to the article in my show description on YouTube if you want to click on that and follow along. But walk us through a little bit about what we're looking at here, and I'm going to get into a question afterwards.
Yeah, so I'd like to set the record straight because I just actually replied to this on Twitter because people don't really understand this. This is not an anti-Jameis argument. This is not me slandering Jameis Winston. This is me going back to the Saints' history, how Sean Payton has run his offenses, and trying to use some of this data to predict, okay, well, one, why didn't we see Jameis Winston on the field last year when the Saints could have started him? And I hear all of the reasons that are made up and have no substance to them of why this didn't happen. And then, so I was like, okay, one, trying to answer questions, because I mean, Zach, you know it, man. Like, you start researching articles, and half of it is you're like, okay, the questions I have, can I answer them looking at data and looking at like historical trends and looking at what this team has done? And so trying to go back through the Saints offense and basically where Sean Payton and this offense has dialed up targets and depth and things of that nature, and looking at that and trying to cross correlate what are Taysom Hill's strengths and Jameis Winston's strengths as passers? Because every time I bring this up on social media, nobody ever wants to hear about it because the numbers, if you look at the Taysom Hill passing numbers, they're better than anybody would give him credit for. And yes, he didn't throw deep a ton, but again, Taysom Hill is not a fantastic thrower of the football. He's good in certain areas. And how does that mesh with the Saints? So looking at this top piece, I literally went back all the way through 2014, looked at passing depth distribution in this offense. Tried to understand, because actually before diving into this, I thought that like the Saints had a lot more screen yards. They were a more screen-heavy team, play action. They're not a play-action-heavy team. That's not how Sean Payton has ever run his offenses. The screen stuff it was back and forth enough to where there wasn't enough of a trend or validity to really kind of like track that and use that in part of this. But looking at passing depth and saying, okay, what is the meat and potatoes of what this offense does? And basically, if you're looking at the last, since 2014, about 64% of this offense has been targets either like behind the line of scrimmage or like 9 yards in. And some of that is, and people say, okay, well, that's Drew Brees and he's washed. That's exactly why I didn't just go back for 2 years. That's why I went back all the way to 2014. because there are iterations where they had the offense going deep, 11%, 12%. And Drew Brees, before he lost all the magic, was one of the best deep ball throwers in the game if you look at like accuracy numbers, adjusted completion percentage, and things like that. So I went back through it, looked at all of his at Sean Payton's offense, compared going back through Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, and even going back to Taysom Hill in college. So I looked at where they have ranked over the last. For Jameis, I went through and said, okay, trying to cancel out like small sample size variants of quarterback play, saying, okay, well, you drop back 25 times, you're really freaking good. Well, no, it's probably a small sample, and there's not a whole lot that you can gravitate from that or really take away from that. Mm-hmm. So looking at quarterbacks that had 100 or more, I think it's short passing attempts, 75 or more intermediate passing attempts, and looking at how Jameis ranked amongst this sample size for quarterbacks, and a lot of it you see for Jameis, it's not pretty, dude. Like, he's got some iterations where, and again, I didn't want to just use 2019 because that was an Arians offense. We know he's going to go deep and stuff like that. So how is that offense going to function? Look at the totality of his career and say, okay, in more years, has he been good here? Has he been bad here? And really, you look at what Jameis has put on paper for us to stare at, and it's okay. There's some times where he's been really good, but for the majority of it, I mean, you're looking at ranks, 32nd out of 32, 13th out of 33, 23rd, 34th. Like, those are not pretty. Now, intermediate and deep balls is basically where Jameis has made his money. Now, unless the Saints, and I covered this in the article, again, this is not a Jameis hate article. Mm-hmm. This is just, I wanted to see what this offense, if it stays the way that Sean Payton has run, and even at the bottom of here, I said, if Sean Payton wants to change up the offense and go more into deep passing, then Jameis is his guy. But I think Sean Payton looks at it as like, I mean, damn, man, like, you look at overall success rates, you look at EPA, you look at all these different things. The offense was a top 10 offense. They were putting points up on the board when Taysom was under center. Mm-hmm. And Taysom, if you look at the very small sample size of when he was, the starting quarterback, even going all the way back to his BYU days, because I put that in there as well, because yes, we only got like 4 weeks of him as a starter. So really, do we want to gravitate to that either? Going back to his final year at BYU, when he played, I think it was like 13 games, looking at that, he was still, middle of the road to above average as a thrower of the football in the short and intermediate areas. And so if Sean Payton keeps this offense running the way that it has, then it gives you some kind of idea of, okay, well, maybe this is why Taysom started over Jameis. Maybe all these narratives about, like, oh, Sean Payton just loves to do dumb shit. Like, maybe that's just bad, And maybe this gives us a look-see into why Taysom started over Jameis last year, and if they roll out the same offense with some different wrinkles, because you do have Taysom's mobility as another wrinkle to the offense and how you design it, then I think Taysom is going to be the quarterback. Unless we think that Sean Payton is going to transform this offense, which he could. He could do that. But I'm leaning on the side that he doesn't, because we didn't see it last year when they had a chance to do that. Now, maybe that was, okay, well, Brees is going to come back, so we're not going to, metamorphosize this offense into something totally different. Maybe that changes this year. But if it stays the same, I think Taysom's a starter. So and essentially what we're talking here is, if we're going to be looking at a Saints offense in 2021 that is going to continue to operate in the short and intermediate parts of the field, then it's Taysom Hill who we would think logically makes the most sense for Payton. And if they're looking to expand the deep game a little bit more in 2021, then Winston makes more sense. Correct? Yeah, basically, to summarize it, that's exactly right. Okay. And my whole thing is that, like, what weapons in this offense, the other thing, if we want to kind of peel back another layer to this onion, okay? Mm-hmm. What weapons have they added to this offense to give us any kind of inclination that this offense is going to be more of a deep attacking offense? Right. They took away Manny Sanders. Jared Cook's gone. What weapons in this offense that we think, like, okay, they're going to throw deep, and they're going to throw deep more often because they added what? What's that level that we think that it's going to change?
And I think that that's even something, if you look around, whether it's on, social media, listen to podcasts, whatever, you hear a lot of people kind of having the same conversation as well, where even they're asking the question, if Payton is going to look to do the Michael Thomas slant boy thing, which is obviously kind of a little bit of a joke, but I enjoy it, so I don't mind calling him that. But if they're going to stick with the Michael Thomas slant boy routes, 20, 30 times a game and working that short intermediate part of the field, then the concern is definitely there for Jameis. And I thought it was interesting to hear that and to see that over the course of the last couple of weeks. And then your article kind of really brought home that argument, because sometimes I think we hear things on social media and we don't always have the context to put to it. We just kind of trust these experts who are talking about it to not lead us down the wrong road. But you actually did a lot of deep dives on it, and you made a lot of really good points that I think perhaps meshed up. Well, it did mesh up with what people are questioning right now in terms of the accuracy that we see with Jameis in the short and intermediate parts of the field, and how that may not work well with Michael Thomas's game that we've seen over the last couple of years. So, I mean, and you're exactly right. Even, they talk about Adam Troutman coming in, that he's going to be another player operating in short and intermediate part of the field, I would imagine. Alvin Kamara probably going to be catching more passes behind the line of scrimmage or just ahead of the line of scrimmage. So that's going to be short. Intermediate parts of the field as well. Someone did just post a question here. Traquan Ascension, ? At least as a field stretcher in the offense. I could see that, but I don't know that he is going to be enough of a focal point in the offense where Sean Payton's going to look at that and say, we have to have Jameis Winston in there to feed a guy like Traquan. I think that when asked to do so, he'll be able to throw the ball downfield and be adequate at doing so. Like you said, he's not a bad deep passer. It's just not something that he has done a lot of, and he excels in the short and intermediate areas of the field. So that is possible, I think. But no, I'm with you. The weapons are kind of not there.
Well, and to add a little bit of context to the Traquan part, Traquan can operate everywhere. He's not just a field stretcher. Traquan, it's not a matter of talent. I've written up a ton of articles about including Traquan over at FTN Fantasy. Yeah. And I mean, even this is probably Zach, maybe a month ago, two months ago, maybe. I wrote up early best ball stacks, and I talked about the Saints at that time. And Traquan, it's never been a problem with any kind of talent. It's been volume, man, and whether that's been some of Sean Payton not getting him on the field and what have you. And I mean, we haven't seen the full breakout ascension of Traquan. But I'm fully in on Traquan. I think that he is a well-rounded wide receiver. He can win outside. He can win over the middle. He can win deep. He really, the guy just needs volume. And I think this is possibly the year. It's him or Troutman, dude. One of them is breaking out. That's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm pulling this up real quick because at one point in time last season, we got a chance to see a little bit of Traquan Smith. For those of you, I'm assuming you probably know since you're tuning into the RotoViz YouTube channel, I do write for RotoViz. At one point in time, I was looking at Traquan Smith last year, and what Derek's saying kind of perfectly aligns with RotoViz's fantasy points over expectation metric for Traquan Smith. In the 3 years he's been in the league, going from his rookie year to now, he was ranked 29th in the league, 20th in the league, and 34th in the league in fantasy points over expectation. He does a lot in terms of fantasy production with the little volume that he gets. And the writing is kind of on the wall there, where you can really see that if the volume were to ever come his way, there's a logical argument that could be made for Traquan Smith really being a viable. I don't know if wide receiver 2 is too ambitious, if top 24 is too ambitious. Maybe it depends on what we're seeing out of him, but even maybe a high-end wide receiver 3 where volume could perhaps get him a lot of big weeks. So I'm with you. I'm high on Traquan Smith. My concern with him has always been Sean Payton not giving him the volume, or maybe it's Drew Brees not giving him the volume, but something there has not clicked over the years, and I'm with you. A Traquan Smith breakout, I think, would not be as surprising as some may think.
No, it shouldn't be. Not if you're a fan of talent, Traquan has it. Then a breakout should not be that surprising to anybody. And I think we're going to get up into Best Ball Mania here. His ADP is rising. I was gobbling up all kinds of Traquan when he was at 190, and he's up to 160, 150s last time I looked.
Okay.
So people are coming around on Traquan, man. But when I wrote him up, I want to say off the top of my head, 2 of the last 4 seasons, he's been top 10 in the NFL, and it's either 20 or 25 targets or more in the wide receiver sample size. He's been top 10 in passer rating when targeted. So the dude's got talent. He's got chops.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I completely agree with you. I would love to see a little bit more of Traquan Smith in 2021. And no, like you said earlier, no Manny Sanders, so the door could be open for that. All right, real quick here. I'm going to get us into a Best Ball Mania 2 draft.
which could feel really fast, or we could be sitting here talking for a minute.
It could. So I hope that I hope that we're doing okay at this and that people don't leave us. All right, we got a couple.
Oh, they must have just filled one.
Yeah. So all right. So we got some time, but that's okay. Like
that's
good. They tend to fill fast, and it gives us more time to hopefully answer this question without it filling. Because obviously, one of the things that we talk about a lot when it comes to doing these tournaments, which the Ball Mania II obviously is, one of the things that we talk about is finding ways to have unique builds and to diversify our builds to hopefully set us apart when we get into essentially the playoffs of this tournament, giving ourselves a chance to perhaps stand out. And obviously sometimes it's just, making sure that we have a strong team in general. But to go back on what you were talking about with the Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill thing, one thing that you're not going to see a lot of is people having two quarterbacks on the same team, just because logically it doesn't make a lot of sense, obviously. Like, I don't think that anyone sees there any kind of strength in Jimmy G and Trey Lance. I don't think there's any kind of strength in having Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. I do think, however, that there could be some upside that exists in doing something like Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, because I think that there's an argument to be made that they can both unquestionably be fantasy producers, and a 3-quarterback build is not necessarily a bad build in this format. And now if you really believe in the offense, you can get the best of both worlds kind of, and making sure that you have those Saints quarterbacks locked up. Is that something that maybe, I mean, it's not being talked about much, but we're talking about it here because it fits in so well with your article. Is that something that you could see being on a winning lineup, or at least a lineup that goes deep into the tournament if things break right in other areas?
Yep, I definitely can. And I mean, whether you want to dive into best ball win rates and things of that nature, I know that it gets dicey, 2 QB versus 3 QB in these type of formats and stuff. Do I think that that's like the coffin nail by going through 3 quarterback? No.
Right.
Again, you're trying to actualize a build, and you and I have talked about this in DMs multiple times, Zach. You're trying to, like, I got this close to the final table at Best Ball Mania and the Bubble last year. About half of my entries for both made it into the quarterfinals, which is, I think for the Bubble, I can't remember how many people were in Best Ball Mania, but for the Bubble, that was like 2,000 people out of 22,000. So I was really, really happy with that.
Yeah.
But it was a good ROI season for that. But jumping into this, dude, you're exactly right. You want to sit here. If you get to that final table, who do I have on my squads that you other 11 schmoes ain't got? And who could put me over the top? What is going to be different by my build? And this is not saying, okay, let's just get weird and throw some shit against the wall. That's not going to happen.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. My whole point is that, like, you want to be different in your construction, or have some players where you could see a path. And whether that's build, whether that's player selection, whether that's guys at the end of your draft, do I see the merit in taking both Saints quarterbacks? Yes, I do. I think that there is merit in that. If you're going with the stack, you get Michael Thomas early. If you want to go Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, then and you want to just consolidate a top 5 to 10 offense in the NFL, I'm not against that either. My only pushback with that is, I don't think that you necessarily have to go Kamara and Michael Thomas. If you did that, you're probably gathering, I mean, shoot, man, like 60, 70% of the touchdown equity out of that offense.
Right.
Possibly maybe a little bit more. Who knows? But is there also an argument to be made, instead of going Kamara early, do you go another running back, then you get Michael Thomas in the third, which is usually where he's going, and then you just grab Traquan or Troutman, and you got your double stack quarterbacks. You got rushing equity from other offenses, because if Taysom starts, does he steal that from Kamara? So maybe, like, if we're parsing out the build, it's counterintuitive to include Alvin Kamara there, because if Taysom starts, maybe rushing equity kind of goes away as far as the touchdowns. So right. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can go that, but the long and meandering, and I'm filibustering here because we still have like 7 people left to sit here and get in this room.
That's okay. I did tweet it out, just so you know.
Oh, good.
I did tweet it out too.
Everybody come on in. Let's go.
Hopefully we can get it filled.
But my whole thing is that you can go both of these quarterbacks. Because one, I think that this is going to be a top flight scoring offense in the NFL. And two, I think it's going to be different, man. I don't think a lot of people are going to go both quarterbacks. And if you're doing multiple teams that you're taking shots in Best Ball Mania, the other thing that I think, if you don't go both quarterbacks, if you're really going to not hedge yourself with that, You can also draft your Saints stack with Jameis, draft another team with your Saints stack with Taysom. If
Right.
one of them starts all 17 games, then you're good. If I'm looking at my best ball as a portfolio, that's probably more of the way that I would attack it. But is going Jameis and Taysom going to be different? Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think, too, sometimes I think when we are talking about pulling off these stacks in these tournaments, I think we get so caught up in always stacking the best players. And sometimes it could be a matter of stacking up the best values, which gives us more opportunity to obviously draft individual players who may be better than those we would be trying to stack with if we were trying to force a stack to happen. But rather than try to force a stack to happen, try to find ways to build a unique lineup while still getting these stacks. So, earlier this extends, I think, beyond just the Taysom and the Jameis thing. I think this also could be something where, okay, maybe we look at that, but maybe we also look at a tight end like Adam Troutman, who, I mean, if we pull him up here, Adam Troutman is going 144.
Yeah.
144.9. So you don't even have to draft him as your tight end one, and you get that. You could be looking at someone like Marquez Callaway. If he ends up, emerging in the offense, you could be looking at something like Tre'Quan Smith. Just finding different, unique ways to perhaps stack an offense that you think could still be good, where if the right parts hit, you're going to benefit from it. Maybe pivoting off of Alvin Kamara and even going Latavius Murray. Like he's a good candidate to be adding if you want a zero RB back in the first place. Now, if you also want to stack unique players that way and hopefully find different ways to really just kind of pad that stack floor, hopefully have a good offense, but still have solid pieces up front where you're not forcing the stack, that can be a unique way to do it. But no, I'm with you. I think I would probably prefer to do more of a Jason or a Taysom Hill and Jameis split. Like you said, just to switch up the portfolio a bit, maybe not necessarily always have all your eggs in one quarterback basket when it comes to having the two. But I thought it was an interesting conversation, something to consider, because if there were something to happen where maybe both of those players are, for whatever reason, changed out in the middle of the fantasy playoffs, now at least you have both of those, and that could knock out a bunch of teams and keep a bunch of other teams competitive, maybe did something like that. So,
well, Zach, the other point of this is that you remember what is it? It wasn't last year, but I think it was 2019 when Jameis and Ryan Fitzpatrick coordinated, and they were a top 5 fantasy quarterback that year. If you got all of their production smashed into one person, if we get that out of the Saints offense this year, if both of them make starts and together they are a top 5 to 7 quarterback, then again, it's different. It's possible.
Different. It's something different. I think that different is really I think to a large degree that difference is what it comes down to, where you
versus 155,000 people.
Yeah,
if you want to win it, you can't sit here and go full chalk, dude. You just can't.
Yeah, you can't draft scared. You have to. I think you have to go into these drafts with at least a little bit of conviction. I think there needs to be a couple players who you're going to look at, and you build an argument for them, and it might be a small argument. It could be something as simple. We'll stick with the Tre'Quan Smith thing. It could be something simple where, man, I know Tre'Quan Smith hasn't done much, but I firmly believe in his talent and his ability to be a player who can contribute as a high-end fantasy producer, even if it's just talking wide receiver too. So I'm going to have a little bit more Tre'Quan than the field probably is, and that's going to be how I gain an edge. It could be something as simple as, I don't care what anyone says about Jameis Winston being, this historically great fantasy producer, and everyone's out here crapping on Taysom Hill as a passer. We've already clearly seen, as we talked earlier today, Taysom Hill is not this god-awful passer that he's being talked about as, based on the numbers that you laid out for us. And if that's actually true, if that holds up, you're probably going to have a lot less people going with Taysom Hill than they are Jameis, just in general. I mean, if we take a look at their ADPs, I know that Jameis
is above him.
He's above him.
A good 2 rounds, if I'm.
Yeah, 208 to 186. Wait, Jameis is 186 and Taysom Hill is 208. I mean, there's going to be some drafts where people are going to leave without Taysom even being off the board. So if you end up going with him and someone else has Jameis and that does not pan out for the Jameis Winston drafter, now you're sitting good and ready. You got a couple unique players in your lineup. Like I said, have some conviction with some of your picks, and let's see what happens here. Man, I thought this thing's going to be filling way quicker. Last time I did this, it literally hopped in right away, and we just got rocking and rolling.
It happens, man. A lot of times, I mean, holiday weekend, Friday night, baby. Like it is what it is. But I mean, I guess.
I thought
so we've talked about this in DMs a good bit, Zach. But tell me this: where do you sit? Are you on hyper fragile? Are you on zero RB? Are you on RB heavy? Like, if I were to say, okay, pigeonhole me one draft strategy, what are you going with?
I mean, I don't know if I can say anything opposite zero RB on the RotoViz YouTube channel.
I was expecting that. Yes, the brand.
As a writer, we have the Slack. Like people talk in the Slack, Derek. So
that's half of why I just said that, because I wanted to hear you say.
Now, it's
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's not necessarily fair to back the host into the corner, but I'll tell you what. If we wanted, I have to turn.
Sorry, Zach. I couldn't help it, man.
I have to turn my card in at the door now. I have to.
Oh God, what was that? The Jets or something like that? You're gonna go to the RotoViz HQ. You're gonna go slide your card, and they're gonna say, "Nope, it ain't working."
You're trying to turn me into Jamal Adams 2020 video here. So anyhow, we have five people we're still waiting on. So
I'm dying, man.
If you do me a favor and tweet this thing out one more time, I'll sell you on another strategy while we're doing it, because I think it's something that maybe is not.
So you've done 9 drafts; they're all zero RBs, and the other one, when you're like, it's like 2 a.m. and you're blackout drunk or something like that. What's the other strategy?
Well, yes, I've done 9 drafts, and I've drafted 27 total running backs.
Oh my God, I'm dying, man.
Yes, it's very exciting. No, yeah, I mean, so on one hand, I think that the zero RB strategy is obviously viable, but the hyper fragile 4 RB build, I think, is also something that, I mean, it doesn't even sound original at that point to say that I'd be going that way, but so many people are doing it. I might get a little bit off of the 4 RB build and maybe try to do a 5 RB build, because I think that some of these people are chasing the 4 RB build so hard that you're probably fooling yourself into thinking that there's as good a value on the board as there is when you're trying to just, get 4 good RBs and get out. So I might try to do a little bit something different where I'm still maybe drafting running backs early. I have a couple builds where it's like Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, and those are, I'm not proud of those, but it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, so the hyper fragile or near hyper fragile, 5 4 RB build, that's something I really like a lot. Another thing that I just was not quite as into before as I am now, I'm constantly looking for like that elite tight end. I just think that that's just like such a huge difference maker that I don't think I necessarily realized before. I used to be really big into fading what I thought was a wildly useless position outside of the top ones, and I kind of thought that I could cover myself by going an extra tight end in my build and just having 3 tight ends who I thought were pretty solid. But yeah, I mean, so the hyper fragile 4 RB build, going 5 RBs, but getting those guys early and just kind of stockpiling wide receivers late, I think has been something that I'm a little bit more interested in than I'm probably allowed to admit. But yeah, no, I like it.
Well, the other thing about it is that
I'm very rattled right now, Derek. I'm very rattled right now.
The other thing about it is that okay, so if hyperfragile is like the new thing,
yeah. If
we're talking about this as like more of a large field GPP and trying to be different than other, not even saying 150,000 people, but saying even like 10,000 people out of the field that consume content over at RotoViz, wherever best ball content's found, and say, okay, well, everybody's talking about 4 RBs. Okay, well, if you're cutting out, say, 10,000 people out of the field, 20,000 people that go 4 RB builds.
Yeah.
And I understand all the win rate data. I get all that, okay?
Yep.
We also need to look at this as a large field tournament, too. And looking at that, if you're also going to talk about, like, okay, well, if everybody's going 4 RB builds, then why the hell am I going to?
Yeah.
Like, how much more the edge of the field am I going to get if everybody and their freaking mama is doing it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's something to be said for going 5 RBs. I really kind of like, for me personally, it's 4 RBs, 5 RBs. I don't usually go to the 6 range because again, I think you're hedging too much, or you've invested too much equity where you're kind of like cutting your knees out as far as when it comes to wide receivers, you know. So I'm in between 4 and 5 RB builds right now. I think the other thing when we're talking, I pushed you back into a corner. I think 0 RB is absolutely viable. And the other thing that's been thrown out there on Twitter is says, okay, well, if everybody's doing hyper fragile, what's the way that you get different off of that? And I think the side step to that is going 0 RB. You know, I don't think it's going RB heavy. I don't think it's that. You know, I think it's hyper fragile, 0 RB, or going 4 to 5 RBs. That's really the 3 strategies that I would say if somebody says, okay, what's the 2 or 3, or how are you going to gain an edge on the field or play you versus the field in these large field ones and these tournaments? Then those are the strategies I would be looking at, or I would be probably deploying. Like, because, I mean, again, we're going back to win rate data. You get into like 6 RBs. I mean, I've seen people post lineups where they have 7, and I'm just like, whoa, baby, what are you doing? Like, no. Like, you probably just burnt $25. That's not a good look for you. Don't do that.
Well, we'll send them the 25 back when we win the million. So that's not it's not a complete loss for them.
Exactly, man. So I mean, you know, I'm willing to sit here and throw out some dollars. Oh, we can go it that way. But that's kind of the strategies that I'm going to. And I think that, you know, we talk about stacking as an industry a ton. I think that how you're stacking and what that does, or how you're approaching that, is really important. Like, what you do in the first few rounds of these drafts can dictate how what you're going to do in the later rounds. You know, how you're building that from the very beginning. Who are the wide receivers you're getting? Are those stack viable with your quarterback? If your quarterback's a running quarterback, are you stacking him with only one wide receiver? Because that's another thing that I think is also viable as well. It's like rushing quarterbacks, you know, say Jalen Hurts, those types, things like that. Like, the rushing quarterbacks, are they going to throw enough? And if they hit their ceiling, it's probably based off of that rushing, and maybe the passing, they're not taking, you know, 2 pass catchers with him, you know? So then you're like, okay, well, if I'm going to a rushing quarterback, like say like Jalen Hurts or somebody, then I only need to worry about grabbing one of the wide receivers. So take your pick, but you don't have to double stack them. You know, you're probably not going to get the passing volume that you're looking for to really pay off on that double stack.
Yeah. I mean, and we're finally in the draft now, so we're going to go in here in a second. But no, you make a good point. Like, some of these pass catchers, you're going to stack with these high rushing upside quarterbacks. You're not going to get enough of the targets, enough of the volume to those guys to really make the stack pay off. That's why I'm fine with, even if I'm not necessarily looking to stack Jalen Hurts with anybody. Maybe like a Dallas Goedert, but that's probably about it. Maybe one of the late round wide receivers, Jalen Reagor slipping, maybe him. But in general, I'm completely fine if Jalen Hurts falls like by a round or something like that. Just running out a naked Jalen Hurts and letting him kind of do his thing, realizing you're going to get hopefully a lot of rushing points at now value. Like, I'm fine with not trying to force
Travis Fulgham. Last pick, Travis Fulgham. You could still go that way. And who's going to be drafting freaking Travis Fulgham? So at 105, where are we going here, Zach? You're the RotoViz guy. You're the host. I'm not backing you into a corner, but you tell me. I mean, give me some options here. Where are we going?
Well, so I usually, if I try to go 0 RB, I'm usually probably picking somewhere around the 107 or later. I don't think that this range is a good 0 RB approach. So if it comes down to these guys, I probably prefer, honestly, if I want to just get a little bit different than what I've been doing, I'd probably prefer Jonathan Taylor because I have up a lot of Alvin Kamara, but I also don't hate Alvin Kamara. So if you're good with Taylor, I'll go Jonathan Taylor.
We're going JT then, baby. No, you said JT. The conversation stopped right there. I'm all in for Jonathan Taylor. Love him this year.
So we'll get Jonathan Taylor. I think this is also a really good time to just quickly touch on everyone's favorite strategy. You've heard of modified 0 RB, right? It's not a very controversial topic. Everyone loves that phrase. Yeah, we might be going modified 0 RB here. So we'll see. We'll see what we can do. But
I've heard it phrased a lot of different ways. Anchor RB is also popular out there.
Yes, yes. I was in a chat earlier today. People were talking about modified ZRB and whether or not it was confusion. I said, let me just tell you, I'm using that phrase until I die, or I will be the last to do it. Like I said, we have a Slack on RotoViz. I have, look at John Daigle in here picking at the 110. Tyreek
Oh, Daigle getting up in here.
He's getting in on the action. I hope he's tuning in here. But yeah, no, we will. People were asking about the modified ZRB and changing it. And I was like, man, we got rid of this Slack here. I can wait until I'm reached out to and say, please stop using modified ZRB as a phrase. And at that time I will stop, and not before then. So modified ZRB is going with me to the grave. I want on the headstone, loving husband, modified ZRB truther.
And you got to make sure that it's got a little bit of flash around that. Maybe they use some gold paint in those letters, not the black. If we're gonna do it up, you got to do it right. Oh yeah, hashtag on the tombstone, got to be. So we're up in 5 picks. We got JT. Is it RB? I mean, I'm with you. If I'm picking like in that top 7-8 pick range, usually it's RB for me. And then I'll kind of will smack wide receivers in the 3rd to 5th, 6th round, something like that. But I don't know where you stand on that. Like, it depends on, and some of this depends on what RB is going to fall to us. So, I will say I am a massive Antonio Gibson fan this year. Huge into him. I think he has RB1 overall upside, and people could say I'm crazy, but I think that's real.
Yeah, no, I just finished up doing an article over at RotoViz that'll hopefully be out in a couple of weeks, where I actually touch on the second-year running backs who are being drafted and the top 3 rounds. So I've got I've got Taylor, I've got Akers, I've got Dobbins, I've got Swift, all those guys. And Gibson is one who I think could definitely hit in a big way this year. I just saw a report that came out today too that was talking about them wanting to get him more involved with the passing game, which is exactly what we want. I mean, Antonio Gibson in the passing game, if you could imagine a world where he even gets half of the volume in the passing game that J.D. McKissic got, and J.D. McKissic just becomes an afterthought, Antonio Gibson's going to eat.
The other thing that I could throw out here, are we going Gibson?
I will, because someone just went Dobbins, and I think that that's a gift to us, giving us Gibson.
Yeah,
so
I'm in for it. So I wrote up Antonio Gibson in a buy or sell article over at FTN Fantasy. You can go to the site, click on contributors, find that under my long catalog of articles right now. And there's a path for Antonio Gibson, even if the passing game, if it goes up just a little bit, he doesn't have to steal all of it. Because the thing that, I didn't even realize until looking at this, we all know that Washington's defense was really, really damn good last year.
Right.
This team was top 5 in plays where they were trailing, Zach. If that moderates, if that swings, that pendulum goes back the other way a little bit, this is a team that was the second most run-heavy in positive game scripts. If they get more positive game scripts this year, Antonio Gibson can get more volume. And if we marry that, if he does get some more pass game run, wheels up, dude. Wheels up. He's got RB1 overall upside, top 3 upside. If both of those things coalesce together. So
I have to look back at it. I might get a chance to do here in a second afterwards, but I think that also it's important to remember when we look at Antonio Gibson's 2020 season, he pretty much lost the last 4 games of the season because of a sprained toe or something against the Steelers. All right, here we're on the clock real quick.
Where do you want to go? We want to go. We want to go Dallas, or who you want to sit here and pick as far as?
I'd be fine with Cooper or Lamb.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I like Cooper.
All right, we'll go Cooper here. Yeah, we'll get our wide receiver here. But yeah, if you take a look at Antonio Gibson's season,
I was hoping Michael Thomas fell to us so we could go to the Taysom and Jameis stack.
Yeah, I was kind of looking for Thomas or even Darren Waller if he would have slipped. But I'll go ahead and take Amari Cooper.
Yeah, but sorry, go ahead. You were talking about Gibson.
Yeah, if you take a look at his numbers from last season, stretched out over the course of full 16, he was on pace to be a top 5 fantasy running back if he would have stayed healthy. And you even got to kind of consider with that too, he was not doing a lot early on in the season. He was kind of kind of seeing scattershot production. He wasn't getting in a ton of RB1 weeks early on. And then it just kind of hit in a big way. And it really kind of felt like he wasn't going to slow down. And then unfortunately, like we said, he got injured, and that obviously kind of derailed it a little bit. But I'm just looking here real quick. Through the first 6 weeks of the season, he had only 1 RB1 week. And then week 7 through 12, he had only RB1 weeks. Some of them were a little underwhelming. He had a 14.5-point week, so not the best. But yeah, I mean, Antonio Gibson, dude, like I think that he could be a player we look back on at the end of 2021, and we just all kind of mutually agree that we were not high enough on him, and that he probably should have been maybe perhaps the running back we were taking over Cam Akers in the first round. That could be something that we're looking at. So I love Antonio Gibson's upside. I think he could definitely be a very solid player this year. So getting a little Jonathan Taylor, getting a little Antonio Gibson in this thing, I am definitely good with that. Let's take a look at where we're going next here. I have a player in mind who I think I want to get, and I don't want to say him out loud yet because I don't want to possibly be sniped on him. But where are you looking at here? And then I know who I'll mention if he's here.
So we're up in the next 7 picks. I think that like looking at like this is kind of where you start looking. Okay, I got the running backs. So where am I going with wide receivers and these type of builds? It's like now that I start considering this, like what wide receivers am I going to look at as far as okay, who can I get my quarterbacks? Where I start considering because this is where you're setting up possibly your stacks. So we're 6 picks away. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways we could go. If we went Evans or Julio just went. Lovely. Thank you, Daigle. Love you, Daigle, so much. I was gonna say Julio. But so we'll have that pick, and then we'll have like 5 picks until our next one.
Yeah, and
I think if we wanted to try to set up like even like a Ram stack, we could go Woods, and then Kupp will be there. And then get Stafford later.
Kupp
just went? Dang it.
Yeah, he went 4-4. So
he went really early. He usually goes later. Somebody went down the board.
I have no problem with going Robert Woods. I also don't completely hate the Buccaneers stacks, which are kind of getting pushed up here with some of these people going early. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but we could probably get Mike Evans if he's not picked right here. We're going to get him.
We might get Mike Evans. We might even get a chance to get him and
Evans is gone.
Evans goes. Lovely. I mean, it really depends on who you want to stack. Bucks, or do you want to go Robert Woods and then we get like Deshaun Jackson, whoever else late? Or do we go Bengals? We could get Chase right here. We can get Burrow.
You want to go a little nuts and go Chase?
Yeah, let's go Chase.
Let's go Chase here. And then when we get back here, I'll tell you who I'm looking at because he's still on the board, and I don't want to say anything yet because
I mean, we could bypass because T. Higgins will be coming up here somewhere in the 60s. If we don't take him early with this next pick, we'll probably miss out on him. But again, Tyler Boyd is sitting out there. I want to say he's in the 70s. He was 78 or 80, somewhere around there.
Yep, I think
we could just double stack Burrow with Tyler Boyd and Chase and go that route.
Boyd is 78.1 right now. And Higgins is gone. I'm assuming Higgins. T. Higgins.
He's usually at 60 or 61, somewhere around there, unless they pumped up his ADP.
Higgins is 60.6 right now. If we wanted to take him here to get super unique, and then we didn't need Boyd later, we might be able to do that. It's up to you.
It's up. I mean, it's really which way you want to go. I mean, I know you're talking about spill your guts on the guy. I mean, if we get sniped, we get sniped. I got to hear who you want here because it's basically we're considering T versus the specter, the unnamed player that we can't talk about.
My unnamed player doesn't need to be mentioned just yet. We're still okay there. We're
You're waiting until we're on the clock?
No, he might not get taken, so I don't want to spill my guts yet. We're on right now.
Okay.
Do you want to go T. Higgins or?
I mean, we can go T. It's either T or the pick is yours, my friend.
I'd be like T or Deontay, honestly. Wide receiver.
I think if we're gonna stack Bengals, I think it's T.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's do that. Yeah. I'm not trying.
I think it's gonna be different than the field too. I mean, a lot of people they're paying up for Chase. They're not gonna probably get T. I mean, they can, but you do see that in some of these drafts, like right now, if going Cooper to get Cooper and Lamb on a team, you have to have a turn pick, and it has to fall to you. Without a turn pick, as close as they are, you're not getting both. And I think that. Again, I think T. Higgins' ADP climbs some. I think that as much as we're talking about how everybody, like, we need to be investing in Cincinnati pass catchers, I could see Jamar Chase and T. Higgins ADP smushing together kind of like Dallas's top 2 wide receivers. And if you don't have a turn pick, I think it's going to get harder and harder and harder the closer we get to the NFL season to get those 2 guys on a roster.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think as camp reports even start to come out a bit more, and we start to really feel confident in what Joe Burrow is doing and him actually being healthy. Like you said, the ADPs are going to move up. This is still kind of the time where I think that ADPs are even still a little bit softer than they're going to get as we get closer to the season, as we start to figure things out. Like this is right now, we are still in a spot where we can take advantage of market inefficiencies and get guys who we think are just going massively undervalued. I think there's some wide receivers who are just going much too low right now.
Robbie went early. Am I crazy to think that Robbie went a little bit early in this?
I can take a look here. Let's see. Oh, hold on.
Why do I think that Robbie went earlier than what I've been seeing him go?
It just switched, but yeah, his ADP is like 72. He just went 57th overall.
Yeah, I was like, that was early for Robbie Anderson. So, I mean, again, like a lot of these rooms, you don't see people stick to ADP, especially you get into these later rounds, like whether people are chasing stacks or like a lot of times, dude, I've been in some wild rooms. I was in one draft where I saw Najee Harris go 101, and I was like, oh, now I've seen it all. Woo, woo. Yeah. Man.
Yeah, that you haven't lived until you've seen Najee Harris go 101 in a underdog best ball draft.
I mean, I was like, all right, well, let's go. We're gonna see Big Ben go in the second round. Like I was like, geez. I mean, Steeler fandom confirmed.
I remember here. Let me tell you real quick who I want right here as soon as this.
I was going to say it's your pick. I kind of pushed this T, so you have the floor, my friend. This one's all you.
Yeah, so we got 15 seconds here. I'm hoping, and we're good. I want TJ Hopkinson here because I think he could be one of the top target leaders, and he has made it. And I am all about him. If you're good with that.
Is that the one that? Yeah, I'm fine with it. Is that the guy you were hoping and praying, like clutching everything that you hold dear, that got to us?
Yes.
Nice.
I'm sitting over here sweating.
I like it because I don't have a lot of Hopkinson in my portfolio right now. There's it's a lot of like really expensive guys, a lot of really cheap guys, not a lot of in betweenies. Because a lot of the sixth and a lot of this round, the 6th, 7th rounds, this is a lot of like where my quarterback exposure has been. Because you see a lot of like Dak is on the board, Jalen Hurts is on the board. You know, so I mean, now Burrow's one of the guys we're probably looking at. Who's the other guy we're gonna think about here? Dak he's already gone.
The quarterbacks are kind of flying off the board right now. I mean, we're already, we just closed on 72 overall, and we got a lot of guys already off the board here. So Burrow
might just take Burrow at this pick.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking Burrow at this pick just to kind of make it happen. If anyone's interested in quarterbacks between the time we picked,
he's what, the second? He's second near the top. Where's he at as far as the rest of ADP? I mean, someone's gonna have to reach for him, but
that's it. It'll be Hurts and then Burrow. So someone's either gonna take him in the end of the 7th here, or the middle of the 8th would be about his ADP right now.
I mean, we're sewed into it, dude. I mean, it's either get Burrow. If we don't get him, we're probably. I don't want to say dead in the water, but if we didn't get Burrow, this team is going to be hurting. You're going to need some real outlier kind of stuff to happen.
Yeah, and we got him. So we went ahead and got Burrow. I'm good with that. Let's pull up the full board here. Hey, look, it's your boy, Trey Sermon.
My man.
We know that Derek loves Trey Sermon. One of perhaps the best draft moment. And I was going to play the video. I was told that I can't. I'm not going to get into it, but But there was an awesome video of Derek on Fade the Noise. It is still on Twitter, so you can find it, where the pick gets announced. Was it San Francisco moved up to get him? San Francisco moves up to get Trey Sermon, and you can just kind of see that moment hit in Derek's eyes, like a kid at Christmas time, where he knows he's about to get that gift he asked for. And you will not probably see a happier fantasy analyst on any live stream during the 2020 NFL Draft. The Derek just with this smile from ear to ear, knowing that his man Trey Sermon is going to San Francisco now. We didn't get him here, but do you want to touch on Trey Sermon, especially with the recent development for Jeff Wilson? Are you beside yourself?
I love Trey Sermon, and I love Trey Sermon. I was out there like filling up I was pouring gas in the party bus. I was out there popping streamers. I was getting everything ready for the party before he landed with San Francisco. The reason I freaked out is because I wanted Trey Sermon, one, to get top 4 round draft capital. Bada bing!
Yep.
That happened. Number 2, I wanted him to go to a zone-heavy rushing scheme. So I was like, okay, get Trey Sermon. My top 2 places that I wanted him to go to was either Atlanta or San Francisco. And it happened, man. I mean, it was like Christmas. The draft stream was lit. I was going nuts. Loved every single second of it because I saw San Francisco come up the board and I was like, it's not going to happen. It can't happen. And it happened. I was freaking out. And I'm still in on it, man. People want to hate on it and they want to just toss water on the hype. I mean, come on. Can't we just have fun? Can't we talk about it and have fun? Like, he's a good player. And don't come at me when he's just a guy, blah, 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 blah. If you look at all the deeper analytics about his production when he's been in zone-heavy run schemes, dude's put up some numbers and he makes people miss. Yep. He's got the skill set they want, man. So I love Trey Sermon. Where are we going to go with this next pick, Zach?
So it's a great question. Real quick here, we have Joe Burrow, Jonathan Taylor, Antonio Gibson, Amari Cooper, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and TJ Hopkinson. So we're kind of at a pretty good spot where there's really no wrong position to go right now. Damian Harris is a guy who I really like a lot. I don't know if you don't sound too...
I'm not huge on him. Spit me here. I'm really kind of curious. Who are the quarterbacks that I left on the board real fast?
Yeah, let's take a look at that because we could get a couple here right now. Man. It's not sexy, but we're on the clock now.
I think we go with a positional guy. I mean, if you want to go Damian Harris, you could take him and give me your spiel on him.
Just give me 15 seconds. Tell me who to pick real quick. We're going with them.
I want Brandon Cooks. If you're giving the pick to me, I want Cooks.
I'm giving you the pick because I have enough Damian Harris. I can make that bet myself and land it. I'm not going to force you to do it if you don't want to.
Well, I'm trying to save your namesake. I'm trying to save your honor in the RotoViz Slack. I'm not allowing you to pick a running back at this spot. We're going wide receiver, baby.
Yeah.
I'm in on Brandon Cooks this year. If we see, and this is regardless of whoever is the thrower of the football. 2 things for Brandon Cooks. With no Will Fuller, he saw a 28% target share. Number 2, same OC is back in the house with Bill O'Brien out, gone. Last year, top 3 passing rate. Even if it's Tyrod, Davis Mills, they're going to throw the ball because their defense is god-awful. Yeah. So Brandon Cooks, as long as he's healthy, dude's going to get targets. He's going to get work this year. And and here's the other thing. And I know we can't project this. There's no way possible, so I don't want to get too deep into that conversation. Yeah. If for some way that Deshaun Watson plays any games, Brandon Cooks' ADP is going up. It's going up.
Yep. For sure. So, no, I mean, Brandon Cooks was very solid last season. He's obviously kind of established himself in the fantasy industry as just that guy where he's often underappreciated and undervalued, and he just proves it again and again one season after another. This past season was no different, obviously. I believe he had just over 1,000 yards receiving. He was an absolute stud, for us. And some of that may have been playing with Deshaun Watson, but it's not. He's not a player who has ever disappointed in fantasy, despite the fact that he seems to be unloved everywhere he goes. Where do we want to go with this pick? Because there's a couple directions we could go in. I'm still wondering if we need to be going quarterback right now or if we're getting too eager because we have to. I think I'm getting a little bit too eager on the running back here, unless there's a guy who you like.
I'm curious who the quarterbacks are because I'm looking at back-end stacks. Like, at this point, like, we've got a lot of equity thrown into certain offenses and stuff, and the pass catchers, we need to start kind of looking at back into the field kind of stacks. Tua's guys are probably off the board. Matt Ryan, again, unless you have Pitts and Ridley or, you wanted to go the Julio route. I think Trevor Lawrence makes some sense. Yeah. Because we could still get... Is Visca still on the board, or did he already go?
He's probably gone.
He's probably gone. Yeah, we're in the hundreds. But you could still go with Marvin Jones and single stack him. He should be there when we come back around.
I would think so.
We could do that. So I think Lawrence is in the conversation. I am not in on Tannehill. If you wanted to single stack Justin Fields, I don't think he has the same bye week as Burrow. We can't do that.
That gets a little dicey. I'm fine with Lawrence if you're good with that.
I think it's Lawrence. I think that's the pick. I mean, at least that's where I lean.
Let me ask you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Ryan, Russell Gage. No?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. I didn't think so, but I do love Russell Gage. He's one of my boys, so I just had to at least ask.
I like Russell Gage in the slot. If Julio moves on and they push Russell Gage out to, if they push him outside, I think the real hero that we're all kind of looking for is maybe Zacchaeus. Because he would take the slot role. Because I don't really want any Russell Gage as an outside wide receiver. And if Arthur Smith, they do a lot of 12 personnel, then I would have a lot of concerns about it.
Yeah, I heard them talking about that on. There was some podcast the other day with Gage moving outside, and I just think nothing about him strikes me as an outside wide receiver. He did most of his work in the slot. I don't think, I don't think it's a necessary thing to do to move him out there. If you see him doing well there, maybe try to find a guy who you can put in to replace Julio with the expectation that he's obviously going to get traded, and just kind of keep Gage where he is. If it's not broke, don't fix it. He's not a big guy. I don't know his size off the top of my head, but there's nothing physically imposing about Russell Gage.
6'1", 180. I could be absolutely wrong with that, but I'm pretty sure he's around 6 foot, 6'1", 180.
You're good. 6 foot, 184.
There we go.
That's not too. I mean, he's not small by any means, but he's also
no.
Not
but I mean, I just don't think his skill set profiles. I'd have to go back and look at what he's done, like versus man and all that kind of mess. But I don't think he profiles as somebody that like we're gonna say, okay, he's gonna be succeeding on the outside and he's gonna garner a lot of targets.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. So so we got what, 7 picks up?
Yeah, we'll be up here in just a second.
Are we looking at who's we'll have 5 picks in between these next two, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of where we're at.
I've got Marvin Jones in here on the queue already. Just
to
do it if we want to. Let me pull up the rest of the board here so we can see.
I was like, who else is on the board?
I mean, dude, this man sitting here was a screaming value at this point in time. If you even kind of like
Tell me why Zack Moss, because we actually, Adam and I just discussed this on Fade the Chalk today. And I know I poo-poo Damian Harris, okay? So if you want Zack Moss, we could take Zack Moss. Tell me why Zack Moss, because I don't really see the path.
So right now it would be more of just a volume thing than it would be anything else. There's nothing that I specifically love about him. It's not like I think he's this explosive player. Right now I just think I'd be getting a starting running back who's almost 2 full rounds past his ADP at this point, who might be able to do something for us. I don't have enough conviction to take him if we don't want to take him here, but at some point in time, values kind of start to jump out to me, and I think that there could be a shot for him to see significant volume. Hopefully they run it a little bit more, and if they don't, now I'm at least getting him and the 10th.
Did Marvin Jones we just get sniped?
Yeah, we did.
Lord help me. Oh my gosh. Okay,
let's take Zack Moss here because we do need a third.
Tommy, take him. Our man's is gone, and I'm glad Adam's not here to see this. This is painful, dude. Especially we took Trevor Lawrence over a back end stack, and I am not doing it, Zach. There's no way. I cannot. You cannot talk me into Tim Tebow time. There's no way we are stacking up Tim Tebow. Were you just searching him?
I knew where you were going, so I typed it in just to be funny.
I was like, no. I was like, don't do that to me. Don't even play with me that way. Like, no. There's no way. I'll have a heart attack. I can't get Tim Tebow. Lord help me.
Yeah, that was not fun to see. Maybe.
No, that was painful, man.
Well, we're gonna get Colin Johnson in the last round. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get Colin Johnson in the last round, and that will be how we put me on the coffin. Because we don't necessarily need him, but that's he's a player in the NFL on the Jacksonville Jaguars. So.
When you're trying to sell yourself into a stack, he's a player in the NFL on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We need to pick right now. We got 17 seconds. I'm okay with Tony Pollard here too. He's another guy who's now.
That's fine. We can take Pollard. Pollard, and we're probably close to done. Like we get one running back at the very, very end.
I mean, all right, let's just really quick talk about the running back value. I know you don't love Zack Moss. I don't even necessarily love Tony Pollard because I don't know if he's going to play enough if Zeke is healthy to really matter. But I am fine with getting these guys, 28 picks after their ADP roughly, and seeing what happens. Like, at what point in time do we start chasing value, even if it's not necessarily a guy we like? Because it's something that I try to keep in mind once in a while when we're doing these things.
It's true. I mean, the other thing about it, if you're looking at this as a portfolio and you're saying, I'm not going to go and do... So here's the other side of this coin. If you're going to go and do 50 drafts in your best ball portfolio, if you're going to select every single freaking person and you're going to sit here and try to like draft like 45 teams with said one player or 10 players or 15, why are you doing 50 drafts? Why don't you just do 2 or 3? What's the point? Like if all of your entries into Best Ball Mania are going to be the same or large field tournaments, what's the point? Why are you doing multiple teams? There's no point for you. Like
exactly.
What's the issue? Like I don't get that.
Yeah, so, you want your teams to be different enough, and having that 1 to 2 player difference probably is not going to matter that much, especially because chances are, at least in my experience, if you're not finding ways to actively break from the players who you like, the players where you're going to be most diverse at are going to be like those end of the draft dart throws who might not matter anyways, not the players in the early to mid rounds where you're just constantly looking to scoop up the same guys over and over again. So yeah, like find ways to force yourself to go a little bit different here.
Am I crazy? Let me pose this question. Are we done at quarterback?
I would be fine with being done at quarterback. I think that we have 2 guys who are starting 16 games if healthy. So
the only reason I'm asking is Deshaun Watson still out there?
Oh, he definitely is. He falls so far these days. Yeah, 181.6.
So maybe that's an oversight for us. Maybe we should have just gone Watson after we got Cooks. Looking back now, but again, we didn't know we were going to get sniped on Marvin Jones.
No one is going to take Watson though either right now. So we don't. I mean, we could take him here if you want to. If you really want to get.
No, I mean it's fine. I mean, I think if we're okay with, I was just curious because I know he lands like way late in drafts.
Yeah.
So I think it's at this point, yes, we're already sewn into 2 quarterbacks. I'm with you. I was just kind of wanted to pick your brain and really pull up the ADP because, seeing where he's at. But in this range, anybody jumping out to you?
Well, normally it would be wide receiver, but they're quite literally all gone. There's players who are hanging around from 117. We're coming up on 144th overall. All the wide receivers are gone, but everyone's letting these like these running backs and quarterbacks slip. Like, if you want to talk about zig when everyone else is zagging, I'd almost be willing to say Kenyon Drake might catch a lot of passes this season, and he is now fallen 30 spots, and take him as a last running back and try to piece together wide receiver.
I'm fine with that. If you want to put it this way, if we take Drake here, then we're done at running back. I don't want to take another running back. That would be my only pushback.
Can we agree that wide receivers just feel so gross right now with the value on the board?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's either I agree with you.
It's Denzel Mims probably.
It would be, and I don't think we have to take him here. I think we have what? We have 5 picks. We're up in 5 picks?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just take Drake. And then because I can make you a case of, okay, well, if we miss out on Mims, then we just get Troutman, and then we're done at tight end.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what the hell everyone's doing with these wide receivers. There's got to be, if we look back at this board closely, I would imagine some wide receivers are being reached on here.
It's the mean mover, man. So I'm kind of curious. Go to Daigle's team for me. Tell me how many wide receivers John Daigle has right now. I'm curious.
Here, let's do this. Let's make the next pick because what I'm going to have to do is I'll pull up the full draft board because every time it moves, it's going to show. So let's make this
somebody else.
Yeah, so we'll do that in just a second here. We'll take a look and see what Daigle has going on.
There goes Troutman.
There goes Troutman. Let me pull up wide receiver and tight end because we're officially done with running back and we're probably done with quarterback as well. Mm-hmm. For me, it's Denzel Mims if he's still there.
I like Mims. I think it's either Mims or Traquan, and I've got a lot of Traquan right now. So I mean, I'm fine with us diversifying and getting some Mims.
And it needs to not be a wide receiver in the 10th round for crying out loud.
Oh Lord!
Or in the 10th, or with the.
I mean, that's we didn't look at the ADPs when we got or the bye weeks whenever we got Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, no, we'll be fine though. I'm not worried about the bye weeks.
No, I mean, I'm not worried about that either because if your late round wide receivers pay off and stuff like that and you hit on the early ones, that's fine. I mean, you're talking about 1 week, and if you go like 8 wide receivers, 9 wide receivers, if you get a boom week out of one of your back end guys, you're fine. Doesn't matter. Yeah. No, I think we'll be okay there. Our wide receivers look nice up front. I mean,
the other thing that we haven't really touched on with particularly Cooper, Chase, and Higgins, I mean, really all four of these guys, honestly, we might have four wide receivers who are looking at some of who are playing on some of the worst defenses in the league. Dallas gave up a lot of points last season. Cincinnati's going to give up a lot of points.
Houston's going to give up a lot of points. Targets.
Yeah, we might be getting by on game script alone with these wide receivers. And now we're going to go ahead and put Denzel Mims on here real quick. Now we're just talking another wide receiver that could be looking at a lot of negative game scripts and throwing. Yep. So I think that's almost like an underrated aspect of this team right now, just seeing kind of that we have wide receivers who are going to have to be thrown to a lot because their teams are going to be trying to stay in games or just, appear competitive when they're down 20 points at halftime. One or the other.
Well, pace too. I think, but we got two, at least a lot of wide receivers on high pace teams. So, I mean, considering we don't know what Houston's going to look like, but I can assure you I don't think they're going to be bottom of the league in pace. So
no, I don't think so either. If you want to look at Daigle.
Daigle went 4 wide receivers. I knew it. I love you, Daigle. That's awesome. He did it for the RotoViz brand, baby.
Denny Carter has clearly been rubbing off on him. He's got 2 running backs right now. He's going full zero RB here right now. He's got 2 running backs, Raheem Mostert, Jamal Williams. We got 11 picks here real quick. Are there any other teams we want to look at real quick? I'm not.
Just kind of staring at the board. I think it's always really interesting because whenever you draft Travis Kelce in the first round, I don't know how you feel about it, Zach, but then it's like the build of your team is always really, really different. And it can be really, really good if the draft falls your way, or you walk out of the draft and saying, oh my Lord, I hate this.
Yeah, building around Travis Kelce, I mean, where I'm kind of at with him in the first round, I don't think that taking him in the first round is bad based on last year's numbers, but and again, elite tight end. But I can just also
if I go Kelce, I am going to be paying up and I'm going to be trying to get Mahomes. If I'm going Kelce, I'm going KC stack. That's what I'm trying for.
I think you have to because really based on their ADPs, I think you can essentially get Kelce, even CEH and Mahomes all on a team. I don't think that is nearly as hard of a stack to get. Whereas what I call the unicorn stack is Kelce, Hill, Mahomes. You literally need.
You got to get some luck, and the Mahomes part's the hard part because if you need a pick somewhere, probably like the 109 and Kelce falls because the 110's a little bit too far, but like the 108, 109, you need that pick. That way Hill gets around the turn, and if you get Kelce and Hill, getting Mahomes to actually fall to you is really difficult. I've got a lot of teams where I've either gone, it's either Kelce or Hill, and then I have CEH and Mahomes. I've got exposure that way, but the unicorn stack it's damn hard to pull off.
I almost had it in an underdog draft, I think, a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't believe it. I actually watched Kelce go in the second round. I couldn't believe it in that draft.
Wow. Well, that's also where you're freaking out, too, because if you are able to pull that stack off, then you're, like, freaking out, like, don't time me out. Don't screw the rest of this team up.
Real quick here. I'm leaning tight end. I'm kind of fine with Jonnu, Hunter Henry, or we can get Traquan here.
I'd like to go Traquan, and then we go Gerald Everett.
Yeah,
Does he have a different... Whoa. Does Gerald Everett have a different bye week than our bands?
It's the same.
No, he's got the same one. I know. Then go tight end, I guess. We're just gonna get timed out, so go ahead and pick Traquan.
Yeah, we're gonna get this here. That's all right. I don't necessarily think that we needed a tight end right there, so I'm fine with kind of getting another wide receiver. Honestly, I mean, you want to talk about more players falling. Jonnu Smith has now fallen about 2 rounds outside of his ADP. Yeah. Hunter Henry about 1 round outside of his ADP. Like, if you want to just talk about values for a second, we might be able to get one of them to come back to us. Even Jared Cook, I don't really hate him. I think he still has a chance to be a decent tight end for the Chargers. I think that Justin Herbert's going to rely on his tight end again. They've always kind of been a staple in those Chargers offenses. If Jared Cook's healthy, I think that he could even give you some decent weeks. And where we're at right now, Hopkinson, we invested a little bit earlier draft capital in, so kind of getting that tight end even later, I'm not as worried about because I don't really have any plan on going 3 tight ends unless you think we should.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think it's 2 tight end. If we're going to pay up a little bit for Hopkinson, what we draft him at, Zach? Like 5th round, 6th round, somewhere in there. 7th?
We got him in the middle of the 6th round.
Yeah, yep. If we're going 6th round, then I think it's you're saying okay, that's enough equity where I'm just going to punt the tight end 2 spot, and you're not going to gain that much more. Like people, you're going to say okay, well, I probably need a 3rd tight end. you're probably not going to make up the equity there. You're just hedging, and then you're hurting yourself in the process. So
Yeah.
I think at that point, instead of getting your third tight end, get yourself another wide receiver and gain some more ceiling. I mean, at the end of these drafts and stuff like that, there's definitely a slew of players, or at least tight ends, that I kind of like. I mean, I'm not against going if Henry falls to us here. I think that's fine.
I'm with you on that.
I will not. I will definitely say this though. I had a lot of Eric Ebron last year, like tied to some Big Ben stacks. I don't want any part of Ebron this year. None. I think Najee Harris is cannibalizing. I think Najee Harris is cannibalizing those targets, man.
Yeah, he could.
Hunter Henry.
Yeah, we got Hunter Henry. No, it'll be interesting to see exactly how the Steelers decide to use Harris this season, because it's kind of no secret at this point in time. They are really kind of the organization. Mike Tomlin's kind of the head coach, where he really tries to use one running back for as often as he can, and then he just kind of spells them out more so for breathers than it is gameplay dependent, or game script dependent, or even down dependent, whichever you want to tackle it from. Tomlin's not pulling out his starting running backs unless he feels like he probably needs to, more so than he wants to. So Harris, I could see him being a guy who maybe catches a few more balls than we suspect him to, probably gets close to 300 touches as a rookie, and if Big Ben's arm is shot, they could perhaps even lead on him a little bit more this season than we're anticipating. If they don't think they're able to throw the ball downfield, or if something happens, if it's Mason Rudolph, now you just might be looking at Najee Harris running just to get him out of the games and on to the next week. So I think Harris could definitely be a player.
Whoa! Is that Adam in this? Am I staring at my co-host name right there at 1508?
You may be.
I'm curious if he's the one that sniped us.
He did not. The guy who sniped us was the Whale. Who took who did he take? He took Marvin Jones.
Thanks.
I know the name. I'm not familiar with him. Ezekiel Elliott, AJ Brown, Keenan Allen, David Montgomery, Deontay, Chase Claypool. He already got the Steelers stack. He already got Ben.
Yep, there's Ben.
He did it.
Oh, there you go, Adam. You got Ramondre. I'm proud of you, sir. There we go. Zach knows in the DMs I've been talking about some Rajay Stevenson, man, at the end of these drafts.
I have him. I got him in a dynasty draft the other week. I think I sent it to you, where I had traded up like a fourth round pick to get into the fifth. No, I traded up a fourth round pick to get into the fifth round to get Kylan Granson. But I did also move a couple players around to get Ramondre Stevenson. I think it was like Savin on that and somebody else. So I'm on to Ramondre Stevenson. I just think that this is a best ball show. We're going to talk dynasty real quickly here for a second. I think that the Patriots backfield is so up in the air that taking dart throws on these rookie running backs. He has fourth round draft capital. Is that correct, Stevenson?
Yep, fourth round.
Yeah, decent draft capital. No real slam dunk at the position for the Patriots. I was more than fine to sell off a couple of underwhelming veterans to perhaps have a chance to get him down the road. So I was fine with that. We are going to be on the clock here.
So with this build right now, are we just going 3 wide receivers to close this bad boy out? That's kind of what I was thinking.
That's what I was leaning towards.
I mean, I'm with you. Lockstep, dude.
All right.
Please don't get us sniped here. Where do you want to go with this pick? Because for me, if you're giving it to me, I'm going with the brand. I'm going Bryan Edwards.
Good enough for me. You can touch on that. I have not been drafting a lot of Bryan Edwards, so
I have.
Talk to me about Bryan Edwards. Why we're going after this guy? I know he was a offseason darling last year. I know he was a guy who a lot of people thought was going to have a chance to weasel his way into the Raiders offense and earn kind of a key role. Had a rather good training camp, if I'm not mistaken. And then
he did.
He didn't do much.
Well, so there's a lot to kind of pick up with that. Like, I mean, the guy made him, like, he was a third round pick in the NFL draft, wasn't even able to test, broke his foot, entered the NFL season coming off of said broken foot, which can be problematic for most players. I mean, especially, start, stop, quick agility. You see those have varying recovery times. And he missed, if I'm not incorrect off the top of my head, 5 games with, I want to say it was a hamstring strain. He had 2 different strains during the season. So you're looking at a guy that got third-round capital based off of no testing numbers. You look at his analytics, like, the guy was beautiful, man. Like, target share was great. Breakout age is fantastic. He, like, basically broke breakout age. And he got it all based off of, like, what? Film and, I mean, the fact that he's really freaking good. So whether you want to lean to analytics, you want to lean to college tape grinding and stuff, guy can play. So that's why I'm in on a possible second-year breakout. Right. Where are we going with this pick? This is all you.
So a guy who I've been taking, and I'm fine with it unless we're worried about Aaron Rodgers, is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Kind of your just prototypical best ball deep threat. Again, the Packers did not do much to address wide receiver in the draft. They did get Amari Rodgers, but Amari Rodgers is not going to be a threat to MVS. And at this point in time, I think we're just kind of playing the long ball game in terms of our wide receiver best ball drafts. Are kind of just looking for those guys who are probably only going to give you 1 or 2 weeks, but if they do, they could hit for a 15, 20-point game and work their way into your lineup as a wide receiver, 3, wide receiver 2. And I think that's kind of what we're chasing right now. So MVS is a player who I'm more than fine with getting. He really should have been better than he was last season. And it's no one's fault but his own, but he had several dropped long touchdown passes, long receptions. So one of those guys, if you want to use the I think it's at this point in time almost a stereotyped phrase amongst best ball players, but I like him in best ball. That would be MVS. That would be MVS. I like him in best ball. I don't want to have to struggle to decide when I'm going to start him in a start sit league, but something like best ball, get him, throw him in your lineup, see what happens. He's going to get there at some point in time for you, and as his ADP falls, which he's virtually free right now, you're fine with taking him here and just seeing what happens.
I'll change that phrase just a little bit. MVS is a player. I like him in DFS, and I hate him everywhere else. He's won me a lot of money in DFS, whether it's Showdown. I played him week 1 at like maybe 2% ownership versus the Vikings. It was a very nice, very, very nice week, Zach. So where are we going with this? We got final pick here?
It'd be rude of me to not say, Derek, give me a sleeper, give me a guy who you just love, who you think no one else is on right now, who you're taking. So even though you backed me in the corner, even though you publicly shamed me on my own show, forcing me to
talk about your running back love,
even though you forced me to toe the company line, I maybe didn't want to. I'm going to give you this last pick here. So 18th round, needs to be a wide receiver. Where we go?
Okay, keep rolling down because all these names are. Ooh.
Oh gosh. He's gonna pick Jeff Janis or something.
Oh God, good Lord, no. You know what? I am gonna go with. No, we're not taking Colin Johnson. No.
I don't want to take. Colin
I don't want to do that. Let's go up. I'm going to go with Travis Fulgham. He is the only guy on this list remaining that I think is going to be a starter from week 1. I think that if Jalen Hurts is a good...
Type him in here. I think I'm going to have to type him in.
I think he just bypassed him. He's go down. Whoa. Oh, crap. Somebody just took him. There we go. Adam! Adam! No! I thought you loved me, man. What? Right, really?
You got 30 seconds. You got to give us one more.
Lord. Okay. Keep going. Shoosh. Oh, this is ugly, man. Oh, Kiki Kuti. Let's go with him. Let's pair him. If it's not Brandon Cooks, if Brandon Cooks falls apart, let's go with him as the random guy that could get targets for Houston.
That's good enough for me.
I'm not necessarily, this is not a perfect scenario to sit here and talk about that, but at the end of these best ball drafts, I do think it's also a viable strategy as far as like cobbling together, say, 2 tertiary wide receivers from the same team. In the later rounds. Because if you're saying, okay, neither one of these guys are going to be guys that I'm paying up for, but if, say, okay, the tertiary wide receivers for a high-volume passing offense get ceiling weeks, and there's like 5 or 6 of those sprinkled in the year. If you get all of those based off of getting those 2 late guys, I mean, to me, It's one of the things like I'm willing to deploy in these large field tournaments, like stacking 2 late wide receivers together. Fulgham's not a really good, and neither is the other guy that we went with Kuti. But I mean, last year the way that I attacked this last year was I had a lot of like James Washington / Chase Claypool. I had a lot of that because I was like, okay, well, high volume passing offense. If I get the ceiling weeks, let's go.
Yeah.
And thank you again, Adam, for sniping me. I get the feeling that you're tuning into this, my friend. I love you, but I kind of hate you right now.
No, but I have not thought about that before. Just kind of trying to touch on that risk-free guy later on. Maybe if you have someone else with early draft capital, where you can now kind of see maybe one of them parlaying off the other. If it's not one of them having a good week, it's the other guy, and that late guy could be the one. And
it's
again,
the same kind of idea as like getting a back end stack. Like if you get an early quarterback or a mid round quarterback, and kind of how we were thinking about doing, you could do with Trevor Lawrence. Like you can get Visca and Marvin Jones are going in the 90s, and then Marvin Jones is in the 120s.
Yeah,
that's another way if you want to talk about this being viable. It's another way to attack it too.
Definitely. No, I definitely that's something to think about going forward. I think that hopefully a couple of people are drawing from that because Derek and I have talked a lot on this stuff. I learned something different from him every day. Now I got a chance to have him on the show here to really teach us a thing or two, talk some serious shop outside of the Twitter DMs. So
talk about all the running backs we love. I mean, that's really what I'm taking away from this show.
That's a good word there.
Zach loves running backs. I got to put that out there on my bio.
I do. I'll change my Twitter bio to big RB guy.
Zach _RB.
ZK _RB until Twitter tells me I can't extend my hand anymore.
Curtis, nobody give this man a pink slip. I'm pushing him into this. I swear.
ZK _RB. Let's go over our team here real quick, and then we're gonna get ahead and get out of here so I can save some face. So we went ahead. We started this draft. We're going to just go in order here. So we got our quarterbacks. We got Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. Running backs, we went with a 5 RB build. We got Jonathan Taylor in the first round, Antonio Gibson in the second. Then we kind of waited around for a bit, kind of captured some value. We got Zack Moss, Tony Pollard, and Kenyon Drake. I mean, dude, even if it's not guys you love, like I said, I think at some point in time you maybe throw the hate or love for a player out the window and you just call it a value and take it. So I really like these RB picks. I think we did a nice job of zigging when everyone else was zagging, clearly taking these wide receivers.
Well, you want the one running back like it's one injury away and they've got the job. Like Jacobs goes out, Kenyon Drake is the dude. Zeke goes out, Tony Pollard, he's the dude, And
Zack Moss might be the dude even if Devin Singletary is healthy. Might not be a very good dude, but he is a dude. And then for a wide receiver, we went ahead and we went Amari Cooper. We got heavy with the Bengals stack. We already have Joe Burrow. We went Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I believe that was in back-to-back picks, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. We brought it back later on with Brandon Cooks, and then we just kind of went with some guys we could see breaking the games open at any point in time. Denzel Mims, Prayer Yards leader 2020. Traquan Smith, Brian Edwards, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Kiki Kuti to round our wide receivers. Tight ends, we have T.J. Hockenson and Hunter Henry. T.J. Hockenson, probably a player who I find myself wanting to target a little bit more later on over these last couple months. After I saw Detroit choose to not address the wide receiver position in the draft until, the 4th or 5th round when they took Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's not going to be a wide receiver in that offense who could perhaps command the target share that T.J. Hockenson is going to this season. T.J. Hawkinson's kind of my closet, my sleeper tight end too. I would say a guy who's just kind of hanging out in the background. It's going to take a little bit for him to get there, but in drafts where I find myself maybe losing out on a guy like Darren Waller or even George Kittle, I'm not really interested in Mark Andrews. I think T.J. Hockenson could kind of emerge out of nowhere and become the tight end too, and really look like a tremendous value in drafts. Again, going to take a little bit to happen. Not the best quarterback situation, but you can easily make a case for the targets to at least be there, which is a very good.
Well, the quarterback situation is not going to hurt him because he plays over the middle of the field. Jared Goff is allergic, like gets hives when he has to go outside the numbers. He's not going to have to do that for Hockenson.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point too. I mean, and we saw Goff, give us some good tight end weeks with the Rams.
Oh, are you bringing up Tyler Higbee? Are we going there?
No, we're bringing up Gerald Everett, the real we can talk Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee is not a guy who I don't
want any Tyler Higbee.
I'm not drafting him.
No.
it's funny. You can quickly come across all these conversations about small sample size not meaning anything, but Tyler Higbee has apparently absolved of small sample size. A miraculous 5-game stretch in 2019 has gotten people silly over him, and I don't.
And now they think it's all going to come back just because Gerald Everett's not there. I'm like, do y'all realize that Bryson Hopkins is there, and it doesn't matter what you think about Bryson Hopkins, and he's athletic, and he could just fill that Gerald Everett role? Do you also understand that they drafted Jacob Harris, who is a ridiculous stud monster, and moving him to tight end? And it doesn't matter what you think about Tyler Higbee? Like, I'm not going after Tyler Higbee in drafts. I think the narrative that now he has the position all to himself is a false narrative. I think it's fool's gold. I think that they run Hopkins with him in tandem, and he steals snaps, he steals routes, and it's all the same Gerald Everett stuff. And if it's not him, it's Jacob Harris.
Yeah, no, I am very much looking forward to the day. And it might not happen, but if it does, there will be a parade through the streets, or at least through the hallways of my apartment, where we celebrate Bryson Hopkins TE1 over Tyler Higbee in Week 1. If that happens to hit on the depth chart, it will be a very fun victory lap.
When Hopkins scores, come knock on my door, because I promise you I probably played him in some showdown lineup in DFS. Come knock on my door. We'll split winnings, my friend.
I will. I'll be sure to do that. We'll have to get together. And if not for that, then at least for splitting up our $1 million that we're going to win in the Ball Mania II tournament over at Underdog Fantasy. I think I'm going to get ready to close this thing out there. Any other things you want to touch on real quick before we hit the road?
Nah, man. Look, again, I want to say thank you, Zach, for having me on here. This was a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, a lot of good football and best ball talk. Again, I know I gave Adam a bunch of crap about sniping us in the draft, but check out our podcast, Fade the Chalk. We're rolling 4 to 5 times a week. All of my work is spread across FTN, so FTN Fantasy, FTN Bets, FTNDaily.com. Got a continuing series with Brad Evans. We got Booms, Busts, Breakouts, and Bets coming at you 3 times per week. That's free over on the site. We're through 8 teams. We're going through all 32. Yeah, man. I mean, like, I've got basically an article coming out basically daily over at FTN right now, and covering everything from Dynasty to Best Ball to Redraft, and all things in between. But this is a blast, dude. A lot of good laughs, a lot of good talk, man. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Thank you again for your support over these last couple months, helping me kind of, keep my head down and keep pushing forward as we keep grinding this thing out, trying to, chase a couple fantasy dreams out there. But no, thank you again to Derek Brown of FadeTheNoise.com for coming on today, doing an Underdog Ball Mania II draft with me. I will be back not next week, but the following week. My brother-in-law is in town for a visit, so we're going to take the week off. So I believe that will be on the weekend of June 12th. We will be on with Josh Larkey of PlayerProfiler.com to do another Underdog draft. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you want to join Underdog Fantasy, you can go to the link in the show description on the YouTube channel. You can use promo code CRUISE to get a $25 bonus with your first $10 or more deposit. And if you want to check out the article we talked about today with Derek about Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, that is also in the YouTube show description. So thanks again to everyone for tuning in. Thanks for Derek for coming on, and we will see you all in a couple of weeks. Have a great night, everybody.